Inside the MGM Grand Garden Arena, a pair of the globe's most renowned entertainers, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena, were on the verge of discovering the outcome when showbiz meets the real world. An enthusiastic audience at the charity event grew attentive as lighthearted jabs aimed at Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal went too far. Chuck Norris stood out from ordinary retired action heroes. Over the years, he had claimed multiple karate championships and served as a military trainer, celebrated for his skill in concluding conflicts almost instantly. Steven Seagal was no mere actor either. As a past instructor for police forces and an Aikido expert, he was recognized for neutralizing threats seamlessly. When The Rock and Cena ridiculed their reputations, they believed they were commanding the stage. Unbeknownst to them, the stage was set to deliver a dose of modesty. The elders entered the ring, composed rather than furious or arrogant. In seconds, two of cinema's most formidable figures lay defeated on the canvas. No strikes, no drama, simply flawless accuracy. An event that started with overconfidence turned into a widely observed display of restraint. The Las Vegas spectators, previously amused, now observed in awed quiet. The public would forever view star egos differently, following that subdued, powerful showcase of genuine expertise. Before we continue, share where you're watching from, and if this tale resonates with you, be certain to subscribe since I've got a unique surprise lined up for tomorrow. The MGM Grand Garden Arena throbbed with intense vitality. All chairs occupied, every shout merging into an overwhelming echo bouncing from the surfaces. Bright beams illuminated the sleek 8-sided enclosure in the middle. Flashes from devices sparked like storms while supporters called out from all sides. Some held signs aloft, others perched at the brink of their spots, gazes fixed on the central area where the evening's presenters would emerge shortly. This went beyond a standard combat evening. This was Combat Legends, a benefit showcase blending film stars with fighting skills, amusement with heritage, and eras of battle doctrines clashing dramatically. Amid this turmoil, two individuals appeared unaffected by the surrounding madness. Chuck Norris, serene and collected, positioned in the premium area near the ring. Clad in a plain black shirt with buttons and deep trousers, he stayed immobile. No crew, no bids for notice. Still, attention gravitated to him naturally. He remained comfortably motionless, a hand casually on his leg, the other at rest. No smile, no yells, merely concentration. Next to him, Steven Seagal reclined a bit in his seat, his typical dark outfit and shaded lenses revealing zero. Unlike Chuck's entirely blank look, Seagal displayed the slightest curve of a grin, implying he possessed insight unknown to the venue. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's tone thundered via the audio system, slicing through the throng's vigor. "Kindly greet your MCs for this evening's benefit showcase, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and John Cena." The place burst into cheers as lights focused on the entry path. Explosive effects burst in dazzling gold and silver bursts. The Rock's entrance tune blasted through the sound as he appeared, limbs outstretched, absorbing the praise. Attired in a fitted gray suit hugging his enormous build, The Rock advanced as if he controlled every bit of territory he crossed. His grin shone brightly as he lifted a mic to his mouth. "Finally," he started, allowing the term to linger while the audience finished his slogan together. "The Rock has returned to Las Vegas." The ensuing boom shook the venue's base. Seamlessly, John Cena's tune played and the intensity surged as he dashed along the path, slipping beneath the lower barrier into the enclosure. While The Rock projected steady assurance, Cena delivered sheer dynamism, springing on his toes, thrusting his arm in sync with his intro music. Clothed in a vivid blue suit aligning with his lively character, Cena seized his mic. "Vegas!" he yelled, sound piercing the clamor. "Are you prepared?" The response came with intensity that appeared to rattle the enclosure itself. Camera crews hurried to record all views as The Rock and Cena navigated the space, engaging the supporters, their rapport clear in each action. "Tonight," The Rock went on after the din calmed somewhat, "we present something unique. Not merely bouts, but a tribute to fighting disciplines through the ages." Cena agreed with vigor. "We have today's title holders, emerging talents, and," he pointed to the premium zone, "a few of the greatest icons in martial history." Lenses swept to Chuck and Seagal's location, their impassive countenances shown on huge displays above. A polite clap spread across the group, not the manic welcome for the MCs, but a deeper esteem. The Rock's grin broadened. "Check them out, everyone. The veterans, the icons. He halted, gazing straight at Chuck Norris. As a child viewing Walker, Texas Ranger, I imagined Chuck Norris could spin-kick the planet off its orbit. Chuckles swept the place. Chuck's face stayed steady. Recall those Chuck Norris memes? Cena interjected, bursting with enthusiasm. Chuck Norris skips push-ups. He shoves the ground away. Chuckles grew stronger. On the large display, Chuck held his poise, though a glint appeared in his gaze. Not rage, not irritation, just alertness. And Steven Seagal, The Rock proceeded, shifting focus to the other icon. The guy who turned snapping arms into elegance. I hear he coats his garments in slickness to evade any bind. The assembly roared with amusement. Seagal's grin intensified subtly. His digits drummed once on his leg. The sole hint he'd noted the remark. But earnestly everyone, Cena stated, easing the banter. It's a privilege to share the space with these trailblazers. They cleared the path for everyone after. The Rock assented, but his gaze sparkled with playfulness. Definitely. Although I must note, the action hero scene has advanced some since their era, right? It was once focused on drawn-out arm twists and intense glares. He illustrated with overdone actions, imitating Seagal's classic technique. The group loved it, laughing more intensely. Nowadays it's about this. Cena posed emphatically, displaying his huge arms. And this. He executed a swift array of actions highlighting his agility. In the premium area, Chuck tilted marginally towards Seagal, murmuring without diverting from the MCs. Seagal assented once, his perceptive grin intact. The event's host, detecting the rising tension, advanced to the enclosure's core. All right, sirs, let's launch this spectacle. Our initial showcase bout includes... Hold on. The Rock cut in, lifting his palm. Prior to advancing, I believe the audience wants clarity. He faced the throng. Don't you wish to discover which era boasted the authentic warriors? The classic ones? He motioned to Chuck and Seagal. Or the contemporary wave? He indicated himself and Cena. The venue swelled with acclaim and rival chants. Certain areas yelled classic, others replied contemporary. Cena, swept up, sprang on his heels. There's a single method to determine, correct? The Rock's brow lifted in his iconic style. Are you implying what I suspect? The host glanced among them anxiously. Sirs, this isn't planned. Come on, The Rock responded, bypassing the host and addressing the throng straight. Wouldn't you all invest well to witness a small showcase? The icons against, he paused theatrically. The top entertainers around today. The place almost detonated with thrill. Attendees leaped up. Devices lifted. Online platforms already humming with the prospect. In the premium zone, Chuck and Seagal stayed still, their composure stark against the surrounding chaos like rocks amid a torrent. The host, seeing command slipping, tried to restore structure. This is a benefit showcase, and we follow a timetable. And what finer for the cause than delivering what these folks crave? Cena urged, appealing to the group. Come on, Chuck, Steven, what's your take? Merely a casual showcase for the supporters. Lenses focused on the two experts. The venue quieted a touch, all leaning in, awaiting their reply. Chuck Norris's face stayed identical. His gaze, keen and vivid despite years, stared right at the lens. He uttered nothing. He didn't assent. He just observed, the quiet of someone who conquered patience long ago. Seagal's grin, though, expanded a bit. He leaned to Chuck once more, whispered a line that caused Chuck's lip to shift. Not fully a grin, but recognition. The Rock, reading their quiet as reluctance, pushed further. Unless the icons worry their heritage could suffer. His manner was jesting, fun, but the dare was clear. Quiet descended on the venue. The humor had ventured slightly beyond. Even attendees swapped wary looks, detecting the mood change. And then it unfolded. Chuck Norris rose. He didn't bound up. He didn't charge the enclosure. He merely stood, a purposeful, leisurely action that drew greater focus than all of the Rock and Cena's displays put together. Seagal trailed shortly, smoothing his coat with relaxed exactness. The throng grew mute. The Rock's assured grin wavered briefly before he steadied. Well, observe that, everyone. Appears the icons are ready for a brief display after all. But as Chuck and Seagal proceeded toward the enclosure, their steps deliberate, faces unaltered, an odd vibe enveloped the venue. The eager talk reduced to murmurs. The loud cheers softened to intermittent applause. Something was transpiring. Something the group sensed but couldn't identify. The ambiance had moved from amusement to something more instinctive, more real. The host gazed desperately between the nearing icons and the MCs in the enclosure, obviously figuring how to manage this surprise twist. "Ladies and gentlemen," he eventually uttered, tone a bit tight, "it looks like we might have an unplanned showcase bout. Kindly wait while we, arrange what's required." As Chuck and Seagal arrived at the stairs to the enclosure, Cena's endless vigor seemed to wane a little. He shared a fast look with The Rock, a spark of doubt crossing them. But The Rock was fully invested, his ego too involved. With a broad smile that missed his gaze, he shouted, "Enter the modern age, sirs. We'll take it light on you." Neither Chuck nor Seagal replied. They just kept advancing, two hushed trackers who grasped that endurance outmatched speech. The venue drew in air collectively as guards hurried to unlock the enclosure gate. Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal neared with steady poise, stares ahead, frames loose. Neither talked. Neither engaged the lenses that eagerly followed each step. Within the enclosure, The Rock kept his entertainer's smile, though it strained around the borders as the experts approached. Beside him, Cena adjusted his balance foot to foot, a trace of hesitation on his face before he hit it with a vivid grin. "Well, everyone," The Rock announced into his mic, tone intentionally casual. "Seems we're set for an impromptu history session." The group's chuckles arrived more reluctantly now, unsure, viewing the four like observers of a wildlife film detecting a change in hierarchy. The host hurried ahead, clearly perspiring in his costly attire. "Ladies and gentlemen, it appears we'll host a unique showcase bout. Allow me to just," he juggled his papers, "modify our agenda as needed. Meanwhile, let's pause briefly while we set up." "Unnecessary," Seagal stated initially, his tone soft and steady as he reached the enclosure stairs. "We're prepared immediately." The straightforward claim stirred whispers through the group. Chuck assented once in accord, his aged face blank as he trailed Seagal upward. The Rock's brows rose in his classic way. "Keen, huh? No prep required for the icons," he addressed the group. "That assurance, everyone. That's vintage style." But the quip missed its mark. The group's reply was subdued, their focus riveted on the experts as they stepped into the enclosure with the smooth comfort of individuals who had entered endless arenas, faced endless rivals. Cena, noting the altering vibe, tried to ease the atmosphere. "Should we outline the guidelines? You know, stuff has shifted since your time. We don't merely slice planks with chops anymore." He mimicked a slicing action, smiling. Chuck offered no reply. He just took off his timepiece, passing it to a close official without shifting from Cena. The action, so serene, so intentional, held greater significance than any verbal jab. The Rock swallowed, his innate charm breaking the mounting strain. "All right, everyone. Let's spice this up. What about a relay setup? Me and Cena against the icons. Keep it casual. Keep it enjoyable." Seagal eventually spoke again, his tone projecting effortlessly despite its softness. "No relays needed." The enclosure abruptly felt tighter. Lenses closed on The Rock's face, seizing the initial real spark of doubt before his entertainer's reflex concealed it under assurance. "Fine then. Pair versus pair. Vintage against modern." The Rock passed his mic to the host, then removed his coat with showy style, exposing a snug shirt that highlighted his striking build. He posed boldly, earning admiring shouts. Cena mirrored, shedding his coat and slackening his neckwear, springing gently on his toes. Let's deliver a spectacle they'll always recall. Neither Chuck nor Seagal put on any comparable show. They positioned in basic preparedness, altering nothing in their garments, pursuing no praise from the group. The host, realizing authority was fading, sought to re-establish order. "Ladies and gentlemen, what a surprise delight." An unplanned display among four screen icons. "Recall, this is solely a display. Solely display." The Rock interjected with a nod to the group. "Correct. Just as I displayed my path through WrestleMania." That drew real chuckles from the attendees, relaxing some strain. The Rock spurred kept engaging the group. He moved nearer to Chuck, tone reduced yet audible due to the venue's sound. "No grudges over the quips, correct? Just entertaining the supporters." Chuck's gaze, sharp, attentive, and laden with years of knowledge, fixed on the Rock's. He said nothing, didn't assent, gave no sign. He merely paused. The Rock, uneasy in the quiet, transformed it into further display. The mute approach. Typical Chuck Norris. "Ladies and gentlemen, spares words since each costs a life." More chuckles, though clearly fainter than prior. The Rock shifted to Seagal, sustaining his act. And Steven, I reviewed your films for an early part. That arm twist method. He copied the action with stretched slowness, though I accelerated it somewhat. Current viewers, you understand, focus isn't like before. Seagal's sole reply was a minor head incline, his gaze hidden behind shades. Cena, sensing the Rock's unease, leaped in with his usual spark. Hey Rock, perhaps they're doing that focus ritual. Entering the flow, he took an overdone focus stance, droning theatrically. The group chuckled once more, but unease lingered underneath. Something basic in their shared awareness identified the gap between the Rock and Cena's staged boldness and the true serenity of Chuck and Seagal. As the host attempted again to set rules for the surprise bout, Chuck at last advanced. With silent accuracy, he moved to the enclosure's middle. His position relaxed, but ideally even. Seagal copied his advance, placing himself with the smooth thrift of action that marked him. Their matched advance hushed the venue better than any declaration. The Rock and Cena swapped looks, a mute exchange between them. The act had turned into something unforeseen, and they recognized it. The Rock's innate fitness assumed control. He modified his position, his entertainer's smile yielding to the concentrated look of a real rival. Cena trailed his cue, his fun swapped for expert regard. For an instant, the four stood utterly still, the enclosure holding more than their bodies. It contained two eras, two doctrines, two methods for battle and stardom. The host, detecting something past his grasp unfolding, withdrew to the enclosure's border. "Ladies and gentlemen," he uttered, tone muted with sudden esteem, "it appears our display is set to start." The Rock, unwilling to yield the focus, tried once more to steer the tale. "Relax, everyone. We'll ensure no icons get hurt in this display." He nodded at the lens. "Can't promise the same for our coverage costs, however." Sporadic chuckles spread through the group, but they swiftly dissolved into strained quiet. Every gaze fixed on the four, screens recording each pulse of expectation. Seagal angled a touch toward Chuck, the shift nearly unseen. Chuck assented once, a motion so faint it might have escaped without the venue's various lens views relaying all to the vast displays. And in that basic interaction, something core altered in the vibe. The Rock perceived it. Cena perceived it. All observers perceived it. Narrating and crafting this tale required considerable effort. So if you're liking it, join our channel. It matters greatly to us. Now resuming the tale. This ceased being a display. This ceased being amusement. This was a teaching poised for delivery. The Rock, interpreting the vibe change, shed the final bits of his act mask. His tone when he talked held the true esteem of one competitor to another. "All right then, let's handle this right." Chuck Norris voiced for the first time since arriving. His tone soft yet projected smoothly, years of authority infused in each sound. "You lead," he stated. And with those brief terms uttered not as a dare but as plain truth, the ultimate boundary was breached. The show ended. The actual began. The instant extended like a tight cord over the MGM Grand Garden Arena. The Rock positioned with his mass evenly distributed. A career of sports preparation clear in his pose. Next to him, Cena had halted, springing, his typical active force directed into sharp preparedness. Opposite, Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal stayed fixed. Two figures shaped from years of control. The difference was sharp and unavoidable. Where the Rock and Cena emitted bodily might, the experts radiated something much deeper: expertise. The host, noting a scenario beyond his command, backed to the enclosure's side. Around the venue, devices were elevated, online platforms detonating with instant shares. Icons clash trended globally fast. "Keep in mind, sirs," the host shouted nervously, "this is merely a display for the cause. Maintain friendliness." The Rock assented, his act smile reappearing. "Certainly. Just a minor show for the supporters." He addressed the group, amplifying his tone. "We'll ease up on the icons. No concerns." Uncertain chuckles passed through the listeners. The humor lacked its normal certainty, something in the Rock's presentation revealing initial traces of uncertainty. Cena, always the pro, kept his lively attitude. "So how to proceed? Alternate reveal key techniques?" He posed the query to Chuck and Seagal, his manner truly questioning under the display. Seagal's answer was soft yet reached all parts of the abruptly muted venue. "Advance organically. We'll counter." 4 basic terms that held depths. The Rock's brow curved, a burst of real doubt on his face before his entertainer reflex hit it. "Fine then," the Rock declared, tone booming with feigned certainty. Let's provide value for their tickets, he advanced with sports elegance, his large form shifting with notable nimbleness. Those acquainted with his path saw he approached this beyond theater now. This was the Rock tapping. His actual sports roots, his advances intentional and managed. Chuck showed no reaction. He merely positioned, arms relaxed beside, observing the Rock's nearness. With the patient evaluation of someone who confronted endless foes, Cena stayed a bit rear. His part in this spontaneous scene yet unclear. His gaze flicked between the Rock and the experts. Pro-reflex indicating something novel was happening. The Rock circled a touch, narrowing the gap with calculated paces. "You know, I matured viewing your movies," he told Chuck, tone softer now. "Aimed more for the enclosure's occupants than the watchers outside. Absorbed much on being an action figure." Chuck's face stayed the same, but a change occurred in his gaze. A faint recognition that noted the remark without influence from it. The Rock kept nearing, now mere feet from Chuck. He offered his palm, a sign of esteem before what followed. Chuck viewed the extended palm, then back to the Rock's face. With intentional serenity, he took the grip. The group whispered approval, strain lessening a bit at this show of courtesy. What ensued happened so swiftly that numerous attendees later argued over what occurred. The Rock, keeping the grip, advanced a touch, a faint shift that might seem as starting a hold or just balance tweak. Only skilled observers could spot the edge he tried to gain via the apparently polite action. Chuck's counter was immediate and almost hidden to untrained views. Without seeming to shift, he gently rerouted the Rock's drive, adjusting his mass and pose in a manner that left the larger individual abruptly. Inexplicably unsteady, the Rock's gaze expanded in true astonishment. He steadied fast, sports reflex activating, but not before all in the venue noted the dynamic change. That lone interaction under 2 seconds conveyed much. The Rock retreated, reevaluating. His entertainer smiled back, but altered now, lined with fresh esteem. "Swift responses, sir. Quite notable." Chuck tilted his head a bit, the minimal recognition. Cena, assessing the setup with the reflex of a performer seasoned in crowd reads, advanced to join the Rock. "My chance to greet." His signature zeal now mixed with true interest. Seagal, who stayed fixed during Chuck's interaction, turned to Cena. Unlike Chuck's full blankness, Seagal's face held that faint, aware grin, the expression of someone who had viewed this narrative repeat often. Cena neared with palm out, having seen the prior exchange, and modified his tactic. "Privileged to encounter you, sir. Matured watching your movies." Seagal took the grip with an assent. Cena, drawing from the Rock's lesson, kept a polite space, attempting no control via the welcome. The group observed in muted expectation. The display hadn't fully launched, yet the setup had already transformed greatly from what anyone, including The Rock and Cena, anticipated. "So," The Rock uttered, his innate appeal reclaiming. "Shall we offer a show? Some fundamental actions? Nothing overly." His terms halted as Chuck performed his initial purposeful advance. With smooth thrift, Chuck altered his pose, a faint tweak that still demanded full notice. He elevated his arms a touch, taking a standard guard stance that held no hostility, no dare, just preparedness. Seagal echoed the advance in his unique manner. His arms set differently but sending the same signal. "We are ready." The signal was clear. The experts weren't present for scripted shows or playful swaps. They had taken a dare and would address it properly. The Rock and Cena traded glances, an instant of quiet dialogue between two who, despite rival pasts, now united by surprise context. The Rock assented once, choice set. He changed his pose, dropping the last traces of display and adopting the stance of a true contender. Cena mirrored, his face settling into sharp resolve. The group detected the change right away. The whispers faded, leaving charged quiet, interrupted only by faint snaps of countless lenses recording each instant. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host's tone emerged gently over the audio, nearly worshipful. "It seems our display is ready to commence." No one present that evening would overlook what ensued. The Rock advanced initially, a probing strike, rapid and managed, aimed at Chuck with pro-exactness. The action lacked aggression or flair. It was the measured tactic of a sportsman, honoring his rival while gauging skills. Chuck didn't deflect the strike. He just wasn't present when it landed. With advance so thrifty it appeared illusory. He moved barely enough for the hit to pass by fractions. The Rock blinked. Truly startled, he pursued with a sequence, quicker now. Still managed, but with greater purpose. Again, Chuck's counter challenged standard mechanics. He rerouted instead of deflected, his arms touching minimally yet directing the Rock's drive from its goal. Each advance exact, effective, without excess power or showy style. At the same time, Cena interacted with Seagal, trying a hold tactic that showed his notable power. Seagal's counter differed from Chuck's yet matched in success, a smooth giving that employed Cena's advance force to upset his steadiness. The group viewed in shocked quiet as the cycle repeated. The Rock and Cena, both actual sportsmen past their amusement roles, applied growing concentrated ability to the meeting. Yet each try met counters so ideally paced, so precisely calculated that the experts seemed to function with data ahead of now. "This can't be," a front row voice murmured. The line caught by close mics and spread via the venue's audio. The murmur shattered the quiet. Abruptly, the group burst, not in acclaim or boos but in shared whispers of doubt. They were seeing something past show, past amusement. They were observing the gap between sports skill and real expertise. The Rock, unwilling to concede easily, advanced with more vigor. His advances stayed controlled but now held true rival drive. Cena matched his rise, applying his notable power and quickness completely. Neither expert altered their tactic in reply. They merely sustained their thrift of advance, rerouting over opposing, leading over deflecting. Each counter ideally tuned to the presented power. It resembled viewing liquid navigate rock. The younger pair's might and pace striking, but finally useless against the older pair's ideal pacing and accuracy. After almost 2 minutes of this captivating interaction, the Rock withdrew, breath a bit raised but steady. Genuine esteem evident on his face now, the act cover fully shed. "I get it," he stated plainly, the pair of terms holding depths of insight. Cena also halted, fresh awareness emerging in his look. He assented to Seagal, a motion of recognition lacking act, no lens-ready grin. The venue stayed muted. Shared air paused, noting something remarkable unfolding. The Rock looked at Cena, another silent swap between them. Then with matched intent, both advanced jointly, merging their tactic in a unified push that displayed years of pro fitness. Chuck and Seagal countered together. What ensued endured under 5 seconds, but would replay endlessly worldwide soon. The experts' advances were so accurately tuned, so ideally paced, that the Rock and Cena's unified assault appeared to vanish before forming. Like expert calculators resolving intricate problems instantly, Chuck and Seagal interpreted the layout of power and drive, performed tiny tweaks, and rerouted the younger pair's notable force. One instant the Rock and Cena advanced purposefully. The next they lay on the surface. Neither struck by clear power. Neither held or flung traditionally. Yet both gazed up at the venue lights, their forms noting a fact their thoughts still handled. The following quiet was total. The Rock blinked twice, his thoughts striving to handle what transpired. Next to him, Cena rose on elbows, bewilderment marked on his traits. The venue hung in shocked quiet, 20,000 individuals jointly pausing breath. Chuck Norris positioned precisely as before, his stance unaltered, his look as blank as upon first entry. Next to him, Seagal's faint grin had intensified barely noticeably. The only sign something major happened. "What occurred?" A front row whisper, tone traveling in the odd calm. The Rock flowed to standing, sports reflex dominating. His entertainer's smile returned, though changed now infused with true modesty. "Well," he uttered, tone set to pierce the quiet, "I believe we just received a true welcome from the icons." The strain shattered. Sporadic chuckles spread through the group, trailed by claps that grew swiftly into booming gratitude. The listeners weren't fully certain what they saw, but they knew it was remarkable. Cena stood too, shaking his head with a wry grin. That was instructive. The host, detecting a chance to steer the surprise display back to planned events, advanced. "Ladies and gentlemen, what a striking show of method. Let's appreciate our 4 contributors for this surprise." "Hold on." The Rock's tone sliced the host's try at wrap-up. He faced Chuck straight, his look bare of act, raw with true interest. "I'd like to grasp what transpired there." The plea lingered. Basic, straight, sincere. For the initial time since entry, Chuck's look altered a touch. Not exactly a grin, but recognition of the honest query. "You aim to dazzle," Chuck uttered, his tone soft yet traveling over the muted venue. "We merely existed." 7 terms that struck harder than any bodily method. The Rock stayed fixed, taking in the teaching within the basic line. Cena advanced to position beside him, his typical force now directed into sharp focus. "Hey, could you demonstrate once more?" he inquired. The plea holding no dare, only real wish to grasp. Seagal looked at Chuck, that mute swap between them again. Chuck assented once. "Advance organically," Seagal uttered. "Avoid acting. Just proceed with true purpose." The Rock and Cena traded looks, a fresh insight building between them. Both adjusted their poses, shedding final bits of display and lens-prepared positioning. The Rock advanced first, a straight tactic without signaling or showy prep. His advance clean, athletic, intentional, a real display of his notable bodily talents minus performance overlay. Chuck's counter appeared nearly kind. With least advance, he rerouted the Rock's drive, not countering power with power, but leading it via the route of minimal opposition. This time the Rock stayed upright, though he ended facing another way than planned, his steadiness briefly affected. "I sensed that," the Rock uttered, true amazement in his tone. "You didn't stop me. You altered the formula." Chuck assented, the slightest approval in his gaze. Cena advanced next, trying a like tactic with Seagal. The outcome varied in performance, but same in core. Seagal's thrift of advance rendering Cena's notable power abruptly meaningless. "It's not power," Seagal uttered, giving uncommon spoken guidance. "Power breeds opposition. Accuracy removes the requirement." The group viewed in worshipful quiet as comprehension clearly emerged on the Rock and Cena's faces. This ceased being act or display. It had evolved into something old and deep. The transfer of insight from expert to learner. Around the enclosure, supporters lowered devices a bit, many detecting they saw something too significant for screens. Guards at the edges eased their watch, their looks moving from pro-blankness to true curiosity. In the front, various key fighters from the lineup leaned ahead, their rival review yielding to learner focus. Even the broadcasters at the table grew mute, no longer trying to describe what clearly surpassed sport or amusement. "When you advanced jointly," Chuck uttered, his tone still even and serene. "What was your goal?" The query surprised both younger individuals. They traded looks, neither responding right away. "To succeed," the Rock eventually provided. "To show our skills. To validate ourselves," Cena supplemented, the truth in his tone echoing over the muted venue. Chuck assented, taking their replies without critique. "And when we countered, what did you sense?" The Rock pondered this thoughtfully, his normal quick charm yielding to true thought. "Like my power vanished suddenly. Not stopped or opposed, just made pointless. Like striking mist," Cena supplemented, his look still showing amazement. "There was no resistance, yet I couldn't proceed." Seagal's grin intensified a touch. Not derision, but the contentment of an instructor whose learners started to seize a key idea in fighting disciplines, he uttered, his tone holding the weight of years of knowledge. "You prepare to surmount opposition. In authentic martial disciplines, you prepare to erase the need for opposition completely." The difference lingered, deep in its plainness. Several in the listeners visibly responded, fighting experts noting a core fact they'd chased for years. Chuck altered his pose a bit, the advance so thrifty it scarcely counted as shift. "One additional interaction," he uttered, his soft tone nonetheless a directive. "Both of you. Complete purpose. No restraint." The offer lingered briefly. The Rock and Cena gazed at each other, a mute accord between them. Both assented, then positioned into prepared stances. Not the overdone forms of their amusement characters, but the even prep of real sportsmen. The group noted the change instantly. Devices rose further. Lenses neared. Whatever followed would merit recording. "Hold," a tone from the broadcast area. The seasoned broadcaster had stood, mic still gripped. For those tuning in who might not comprehend what they're viewing, this is remarkable. Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal aren't merely performers who understand fighting disciplines. They're true experts who turn to acting. His partner assented, adding, "What we're observing is years of real control facing current sports might. This isn't age or power. It's about basically distinct methods to battle and act." The breakdown hushed talks across the venue. Even those there purely for fun realized they saw something meaningful. Inside the enclosure, the four appeared unaware of the broadcast. Their attention narrowed to this instant. This interaction, this teaching being taught and absorbed at once. The Rock and Cena advanced at once, a unified tactic from years of pro background. They proceeded not as entertainers, but as sportsmen, applying true ability and might to their advance. What ensued transpired so fast that many listeners later claimed the venue lenses glitched. One instant, The Rock and Cena progressed with ideal unity. The next, they were fully countered. Their drive scattered so successfully that neither was flung or hit. Yet both ended abruptly immobile. Their assaults dissolved pre-completion. The group inhaled together. Guards at the enclosure's border instinctively advanced, then halted, unsure what to address. The Rock exhaled gradually, a grin of true wonder across his face. "Amazing," he stated plainly. Cena assented, gaze broad with fresh insight. "It's like attempting to hit liquid." Chuck's look stayed the same, but something in his gaze softened a touch. The mute endorsement of an instructor whose learners had started to seize a vital fact. "Now you comprehend," Seagal uttered, the grin fading to something more real, esteem for their eagerness to absorb. The venue stayed muted, 20,000 individuals jointly handling that they had seen something much grander than the display they'd purchased. This wasn't amusement. It was insight. The host, reading the space with pro-reflex, avoided rushing the instant. He merely positioned at the enclosure's border as much an observer as any listener. In the broadcast area, the seasoned reviewer leaned to his mic. "What we observed," he uttered, tone muted with esteem, "is the gap between method ability and real expertise. Johnson and Cena are truly capable sportsmen, but Norris and Seagal function on a basically distinct plane." His partner assented. "It's like observing laws of motion rewritten live. The younger pair work with might, drive, power, all the basics ruling current fighting sports. The experts show something deeper, the surpassing of those basics." Across the venue, fighting disciplines followers of diverse schools assented in mute comprehension. What puzzled many observers was deeply evident to those who spent years on the route of real expertise. Inside the enclosure, The Rock examined Chuck with fresh esteem. "One query," he uttered, his tone holding the modest pitch of a learner to an expert. "Why accept this? You could have refused the dare." Chuck's reply was prompt, though still in that even pitch. "Pride makes a good mark. It obscures, opens vulnerabilities," Seagal supplemented. Not harshly. The plainness of their reply lingered. Strong exactly for lacking spite, no pride, just fact. The Rock and Cena positioned still, taking in the insight with clear modesty. Then gradually, purposefully, The Rock offered his palm to Chuck, not as an entertainer wanting praise, but as a true sign of esteem. "Thanks for the teaching, sir." Chuck took the grip with a faint assent, the initial recognition he'd provided since entry. Next to them, Cena and Seagal shared a like motion. The group, noting the real instant unfolding, started clapping softly initially, then rising to booming gratitude. This wasn't the manic reply to a stunning bout. It was deeper, more worshipful acknowledgement of eternal insight shown with ideal sharpness. From the premium area, various senior fighting disciplines champs stood, providing the classic incline of esteem toward the enclosure. Younger combatants across the venue mirrored, grasping instinctively what they observed. As the four positioned jointly in the enclosure's middle, the difference between them peaked. Yet oddly, they seemed more linked. Two eras, two methods to battle and stardom, briefly connected by shared esteem. The screens around the venue recorded all views of this surprise instant. The Rock and Cena, famed for their commanding bodily existence, somehow seeming lesser beside the experts despite larger build. Chuck and Seagal, apparently ordinary in bodily size, emitting an unseen command that surpassed simple existence. In the broadcast area, the broadcasters sought terms matching the instant. "Ladies and gentlemen," the seasoned reviewer eventually uttered, "I've covered fighting sports for 3 decades and I've never observed something exactly like this. What launched as an unplanned display has turned into a deep show of what fighting disciplines at peak truly means." His partner assented. "The actual query now is what follows such a show? Where to proceed?" Inside the enclosure, that exact query appeared to linger between the four. The teaching had been provided with ideal sharpness, but teachings once given require reply. The calm instant of shared esteem couldn't endure. The setups had altered too sharply to merely resume the planned lineup. The Rock noted it first, his entertainer's sense registering the vibe shift in the venue. The group's gratitude was true, but beneath ran a flow of anticipation. 20,000 individuals had observed something remarkable, but remarkable instants breed desire for closure, for peak. His look altered a bit as he glanced at Cena, a mute swap between them. Both acknowledged their duty in this surprise tale. They had started this meeting via overconfidence. Modesty alone wasn't enough to finish the loop. The Rock shifted back to Chuck, his choice set. The grin across his face differed from his normal act beam, more true, but holding a fresh glint of rival drive. One correct interaction, he uttered, tone traveling over the muted venue. Full engagement. Display these folks what eras of knowledge truly resemble from each view. The dare lingered, distinct from prior ridicule. This lacked overconfidence now, but true esteem, pursuing true show. The Rock wasn't trying to claim superiority. He was providing the experts the chance to finish the teaching they launched. Chuck's look stayed unaltered, but something sparked in his gaze. Not fury, not even rejection, just alertness. Next to him, Seagal's faint grin reappeared, holding a depth of awareness that caused various guards at the enclosure's border to shift uneasily. The host advanced again, pro-sense urging him to reclaim command. Gentlemen, the display has exceeded expectations. I believe it's time we won interaction. Seagal cut in, his soft tone somehow piercing both the host's terms and the rising group sound as asked. The venue grew mute again. Even the Rock appeared briefly surprised by the prompt acceptance. He steadied fast, assurance returning to his pose as he assented with fresh intent. Ideal. Cena and I will display what the fresh era offers. He looked at his partner. Prepared? Cena paused, a burst of doubt on his traits before pro-commitment prevailed. He assented once, positioning into a prepared pose beside the Rock. The serenity pre-storm had gone. The teaching was poised to assume its ultimate decisive shape. The instant of shared esteem lingered, a delicate balance that could have ended the surprise display with honor preserved for everyone. The host noted it, advancing with evident relief. Ladies and gentlemen, what a remarkable show of ability and courtesy. Let's appreciate our 4 contributors for this outstanding. But the Rock lifted his palm, muting the host mid-phrase. His look had changed the modesty of instants prior, slowly yielding to another thing. The entertainer's ego, maybe, or the innate rival drive that fueled his whole path. Pause, he uttered, tone projecting smoothly over the muted venue. That was enlightening, but it wasn't a correct display. He shifted to confront Chuck straight. A fresh dare building in his gaze. Folks paid for excitement, not theory. Next to him, Cena adjusted uncomfortably, noting the risky ground his partner entered. Rock, he uttered softly. I believe we've absorbed what required. The Rock either missed or ignored the caution. His innate appeal reasserted as he appealed to the group. What say you, everyone? Don't you desire a genuine interaction, not merely reroutes and steadiness changes? A whisper passed through the listeners, unsure initially, then growing as the Rock's captivating existence performed its known effect. Sporadic acclaim burst from diverse areas, boosting his assurance. In the front, a past UFC title holder leaned to his associate. He lacks grasp of what he seeks. The combatant muttered, worry clear in his tone. Those elders play a different game. His terms traveled enough to reach close observers who looked at him with abrupt doubt. The wave spread sections of the group quieting, even as others kept responding to the Rock's appealing charm. One correct interaction, the Rock went on, gaze fixed on Chuck's blank face. Full engagement. Display these folks what eras of knowledge truly resemble from each view. From the broadcast area, the seasoned reviewer spoke softly into his mic. Johnson treads risky paths here. What we've observed isn't method against method. It's doctrine against doctrine. Raising this to full engagement basically misinterprets what Norris and Seagal have shown. His partner assented. There's something nearly touching about it. Johnson's bodily skill is remarkable, but he still thinks in terms of power facing power. He hasn't completely seized what these experts demonstrate. In the enclosure, Chuck's look stayed the same, but something sparked in his gaze. Not fury, not even rejection, just alertness. Next to him, Seagal's faint grin reappeared, holding a depth of awareness that caused various guards at the enclosure's border to shift uneasily. The host advanced again, pro-sense urging him to reclaim command. Gentlemen, the display has exceeded expectations. I believe it's time we won interaction. Seagal cut in, his soft tone somehow piercing both the host's terms and the rising group sound as asked. The venue grew mute again. Even the Rock appeared briefly surprised by the prompt acceptance. He steadied fast, assurance returning to his pose as he assented with fresh intent. Ideal. Cena and I will display what the fresh era offers. He looked at his partner. Prepared? Cena paused, a burst of doubt on his traits before pro-commitment prevailed. He assented once, positioning into a prepared pose beside the Rock. Chuck and Seagal stayed fixed, their serenity unshaken by the rise. They merely paused, arms relaxed beside the pose of individuals with zero to validate, yet ready to show when needed. In the premium area, various fighting experts traded aware looks. A gray-haired teacher shook his head a touch, his murmured remark traveling to close ones. The younger don't perceive it. This lacks win or lose. A noted kickbox title holder next assented. They believe they seek a correct bout. What they'll receive is a correct teaching. Across the venue, those with skilled views grasped what unfolded. Pro-combatants, fighting teachers, even guards with battle histories all noted the core error in the Rock's dare. On 3, the Rock declared, thrill rising in his tone. 1, the group leaned ahead together. Devices elevated further. The vibe in the venue altered. Expectation mixed with discomfort, as if 20,000 individuals were jointly attracted to and disturbed by what could ensue. 2 guards traded anxious looks, unsure what rules applied to this novel setup. Health team at the platform's border subtly neared. Pro reflex addressing something their aware thoughts hadn't fully noted. 3. What ensued happened so swiftly that despite endless lenses recording all views, discussion would persist for weeks on the exact order. The Rock and Cena surged ahead jointly. No display now, just pure sports skill directed into unified advance. Their tactic was controlled, mighty, and dedicated precisely what the Rock requested, a full interaction. Chuck and Seagal advanced in ideal harmony, their counters so accurately tuned, they appeared to function as one unit. Where before they merely rerouted and countered, now they replied to the straight dare with straight counter. The contact endured under 2 seconds. 2 exact advances, 1 per expert, provided with such thrift of motion that many listeners missed them entirely. Not harsh hits or bold drops, but ideally placed contacts that linked with calculated accuracy. The Rock halted mid-advance, gaze widening in true shock. Next to him, Cena faced the same abrupt freeze. For a pulse, all 4 positioned in a frozen scene. Then, as if support severed, the Rock and Cena collapsed to the surface, not flung, not downed by visible might, merely made instantly incapable of holding pose. The following quiet was total. 20,000 individuals jointly paused breath, unable to handle what they observed. In the broadcast area, the seasoned reviewer advanced, pro-separation briefly dropped. "My lord," he murmured into his mic. "Nerve point control. I haven't observed that performed at that plane in 3 decades. His partners gazed at screens, seeking terms. For watchers just arriving, what you view isn't scripted. 2 of film's largest bodily performers just faced what occurs when display encounters true expertise. Across the venue, fighting disciplines followers of diverse schools grasped what they saw, though few could copy it. This wasn't merely method. It was the use of years of insight provided with ideal accuracy. Chuck and Seagal hadn't shifted from spots. No triumph poses, no bold stances, just the same soft preparedness with which they entered. Their faces stayed composed, neither boasting nor worried, merely there, fully involved with the instant, but detached from its result. On the surface, the Rock blinked fast, his form reacting before his thoughts fully noted what transpired. He rose to seated, disbelief clear in his expression. Next to him, Cena stayed fixed a bit longer before gradually turning to side. Health team advanced to the enclosure entry, but Chuck elevated a palm a touch, a least motion that still stopped them promptly. The faint advance conveyed full surety. No help required. The impact was brief. This was teaching, not harm. What was that?" the Rock uttered, tone unusually faint in the vast quiet. Chuck gazed down, and for the first time since entry his look softened a bit. Not quite a grin, but recognition teacher to learner. The gap, he stated plainly, between appearing mighty and being mighty. The term struck harder than any bodily method. The Rock seated still, taking their depth with clear modesty. Seagal offered a palm to Cena, aiding him up with unexpected kindness. "Esteem isn't in triumph," he uttered softly. "It's in grasping when to withdraw." Cena assented gradually, true comprehension emerging in his gaze. "Thanks," he uttered, the 2 terms holding depths of fresh esteem. From the broadcast area, the reviewer spoke with soft worship. "What we observed surpasses sport or amusement. Norris and Seagal just showed what fighting experts have grasped for ages. Real might isn't in using power, but in ideal grasp of force," his partner assented. For those curious what exactly transpired, Both Johnson and Cena were briefly disabled via exact nerve control. Not risky but fully successful. The type of method needing years to expert and seldom viewed beyond classic training halls. Across the venue, the listeners stayed in shocked quiet. Many who arrived expecting amusement found confronting something deeper. A true show of fields that had been marketed and simplified for wide use, abruptly returned to their real core. The Rock stood without aid, his innate grace reclaiming as he rose fully. For an instant, he merely positioned facing Chuck, all facade removed. Then, with intentional ritual, he inclined his head in a proper bow, the motion of a learner honoring an expert. The basic act broke the hold that kept the venue mute. Claps burst, tentative initially, then rising fast into booming gratitude. This wasn't the frantic reply to stunning force. It was deeper, more worshipful acknowledgement of eternal insight shown with ideal sharpness. Chuck mirrored the bow with exact grace, his advance holding neither win nor superiority, just recognition of esteem correctly provided. In that instant, the difference between the eras peaked. The Rock bodily commanding, appealing, an individual who demanded notice via existence and act. Chuck, modest in build, collected, an individual whose command came not from requiring acknowledgement, but from living ideals so fully that acknowledgement became certain. Next to them, Cena and Seagal performed a like swap. Cena's bow holding maybe deeper grasp, Seagal's recognition holding the same lack of pride that marked his every advance. From the broadcast area, the reviewers observed in gratitude. There's something nearly artistic about this instant. The seasoned commentator noted, John Johnson and Cena have created paths on displaying might, on being bigger than reality. Norris and Seagal show them what exists past act. The soft command that arrives when you no longer require to persuade anyone of your skills. His partner assented. It's a distinct type of might entirely. Not about ruling space, but about occupying it fully. The instant captured something deep for all observing it. This had never been rivalry between youth and age, between eras or methods. It had been a teaching on the essence of real might provided not via terms or even excess power, but via the ideal thrift of expertise. Across the venue, devices recorded all views of this surprise end. The bodily titans humbled, not by superior power but by superior grasp. The experts neither marking win nor pursuing confirmation, merely there in the finish of what they started. The Rock addressed the group, his entertainer's reflex reappearing but changed now, directed into something truer. Ladies and gentlemen, he declared, tone firm with true feeling. This is what years of control resembles. This is what we all should seek. The claps intensified, flowing over the four insurges. Cena advanced to position beside the Rock, nodding strong accord. I entered assuming I grasped might, Cena confessed, speaking to both experts and group with equal truth. I'm departing with a fresh meaning. In the premium area, the gray-haired teacher grinned in soft endorsement. The real win, he whispered to his peers, isn't in overcoming a rival. It's in altering their grasp. The noted kickboxer next assented. The finest conflict ends with both elevated, not one reduced. Across the venue, like talks unfolded, pro-combatants examining the method perfection they observed, everyday supporters handling the surprise move from amusement to teaching, fighting disciplines followers noting ideals they'd learned of, but seldom observed performed with such purity. Chuck and Seagal stayed collected amid the praise, neither pursuing nor evading the focus merely there, precisely as throughout. Their serenity now held different depth, not the strain of possible action but the full ease of goal achieved. The host, noting the ideal wrap to what became a surprise peak of the occasion, advanced with renewed assurance. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly express your gratitude for these four exceptional individuals. As the group roared endorsement, Chuck shifted toward the enclosure exit, Seagal aligning beside him. Their departure held the same deliberate grace as their arrival. Unrushed, unassuming, finished. No wind circuits, no appealing to lenses, no try to prolong their focus instant. Behind, the Rock and Cena positioned together, observing their exit with looks of true worship. Something core had changed in both, evident in their poses, in their looks, in how they filled space. Where they entered as performers displaying might, they now positioned as learners who had glimpsed beyond act. I doubt I've observed anything similar, The Rock uttered softly to Cena. The terms for his partner alone, but noted by close mics. Cena assented, still rubbing his arm, where Seagal's exact contact had briefly upset his system. Causes wonder what else we ignore. The Rock's chuckle held true modesty. All evidently. As Chuck and Seagal vanished along the entry path, the group's gratitude trailed them, a surge of sound that held not just thrill or amusement worth, but true esteem. Something deep had happened in that enclosure, something surpassing the show they paid to observe. The teaching had been provided not with terms, not with overpower, but with the soft accuracy that only real expertise can offer. And across the venue, 20,000 individuals acknowledged in their ways the fact at the core of what they observed. Real might doesn't declare with loudness or show. It simply exists, shown not in claims but in achievements. The MGM Grand Garden Arena buzzed with altered vigor now. The manic thrill of before had changed into something more thoughtful, more worshipful. As Chuck Norris and Steven Seagal proceeded back to the area, every device followed their advance. Every gaze tracked their leisurely progress. Behind in the enclosure, The Rock massaged his arm, a puzzled look still on his traits. "Did you sense what I did?" he queried Cena, tone low so only his partner and nearest mics noted it. Cena assented, unconsciously rubbing his arm like disconnected from energy. One moment all functions, the next he shook head, terms unable to seize the sensation. "Not ache," The Rock proceeded, attempting to express the feeling. "More like someone located the disable I ignored." "Precisely," Cena concurred, and the wildest bit, I could sense they were mild. That wasn't near what they might have performed. The Rock's gaze widened a touch as the meanings absorbed. "Makes you reconsider all those Chuck Norris quips, right?" The two proceeded to the enclosure exit, trailing the route the experts took instants prior. As they descended the stairs, the group's claps rose again. Not the praise that usually welcomed their shows, but something more layered, mixed with fresh esteem for their readiness to be publicly modest. In the front, a known fighting disciplines teacher leaned to his pupils. "Recall this instant," he uttered softly. "You just observed the gap between a career of training and a career of expertise." Close, a sports mind expert assented. The bodily method was remarkable, but noted the mind control? No pride, no urge to rule or shame, just the exact use of insight. Across the venue, like talks unfolded, experts examining the method perfection they observed. Everyday supporters handling the surprise move from amusement to teaching. Fighting disciplines followers noting ideals they'd learned of, but seldom observed performed with such purity. The host, pro-reflex activating, tried to shift back to the planned lineup. "Ladies and gentlemen, what a surprise gift that was. Now as we resume our display bouts," but his tone faded as the four converged at the platform's border. The venue's lens focused, relaying the instant to vast screens, ensuring no observer missed what ensued. The Rock offered his palm first, meeting Chuck's gaze straight. "Sir, I owe apology, the quips, the dare. It lacked esteem." Chuck took the grip with plain grace. "Esteem isn't required," he answered, his tone traveling smoothly despite measured. "It's gained on each side." The swap held no bitterness, no boasting from the winner or grudge from the modest, just true recognition between pros. Cena advanced next, providing his palm to Seagal. "Thanks for the teaching," he uttered with typical straightforwardness. "I won't overlook." Seagal's constant grin had eased into something truer. "The finest combatants," he answered, gripping Cena's palm strongly, "are those who grasp. They're eternally learners." The group took in the swap in muted gratitude. Online platforms burst with instant responses. Tags trending worldwide quickly. "Honor the icons. Expertise above display. The softest defeat." Close, a journalist from a fighting disciplines outlet scribbled fast. "This is novel," she whispered to her image taker. "We just observed the link between eras the combat realm has required for years." Her partner assented, reviewing shots on his device. "Caught what Norris uttered? Esteem isn't required. It's gained. That's the year's line in our field." As guards created a shielding path to lead the four behind scenes, something novel happened. The Rock, unwilling to yield focus easily, positioned a bit behind Chuck, motioning for the expert to proceed first. The basic act, the younger celebrity, deliberately yielding priority to the elder, conveyed more than terms. The group noted promptly. A fresh chant launched, beginning scattered before filling the venue. "Respect, respect, respect." In the broadcast area, the seasoned reviewer advanced. "In my years covering combat sports, I've never observed an instant quite this," he uttered. Pro separation briefly dropped. What began as amusement has changed into something nearing doctrine. His partner assented. The social meaning here is huge. Johnson and Cena symbolize the current method to both battle and fame, bodily, vibrant, always seen. Norris and Seagal represent an elder custom, method reserved centered on content over show. And what we observed, the first reviewer proceeded, was the ideal blend of those customs. Not clash, but teaching, not rivalry, but sharing of insight. Behind scenes, away from lenses and roaring group, the four paused in a soft instant of seclusion. The Rock's typical force had reappeared, though tempered with true modesty. "I must query," he uttered, still rubbing his arm. "What precisely did you perform there?" Chuck's reply came with the same thrift as his advances in the enclosure nerve path. Pressure, brief break like pressing reset. Seagal supplemented the detail factual despite the remarkable ability it outlined. Cena shook head in amazement. They skipped that in WWE prep. A trace of humor touched Chuck's gaze, or in most training halls either. "How long to master that?" The Rock queried. Pro interest fully involved. Chuck pondered the query with typical accuracy. "Mastering the method. Some years. Grasping when and why to apply. Years." The basic gap landed with sudden depth. Both younger fell mute, taking in a core fact about expertise that escaped them till now. Method minus insight is just mechanics. The instant was cut by the occasion planner rushing ahead, device gripped, face red with thrill. "Sirs, the online figures are bursting. We've never observed interaction like this for any display. The cause gifts have tripled in the past 10 alone." The Rock entertainer's reflex promptly noted the chance. "We should use this media session. All four jointly. Unity over eras. Shared esteem." The ideal note for the cause. Chuck and Seagal traded looks. That mute swap between them once more. Chuck shifted back to the Rock with the faintest grin. "Your platform," he stated plainly. "We've had ours." The reply surprised the Rock. In his realm of constant push and max exposure, the notion of intentionally withdrawing from a focus instant was nearly unthinkable. "You skipped the media spotlight?" he queried, true confusion in tone. This could be massive comeback circuits, shared shows, perhaps Filmworks jointly. Seagal's grin reappeared, holding no spite but endless comprehension. "That's your realm," he uttered. "Not ours, not any longer." The basic line landed with striking depth. The Rock and Cena positioned mute, taking in a fact about stardom and heritage that never struck before. The strength of selecting when to involve, when to withdraw, when to merely exist over constant act. "I lack grasp," Cena confessed eventually. "In your spot, I'd maximize this instant fully." "Precisely," Chuck answered. "The lone term holding depths of insight." The Rock examined him closely. True interest overriding pro reflex. "Do you miss it ever?" The focus. The acknowledgement. Chuck's reply arrived sans pause. "Acknowledgement wanes. Achievement endures." 5 terms that held years of view. The younger traded looks. A joint recognition that they had met something past their present grasp. A link with stardom and success that surpassed the measures they used for triumph. Before the talk could proceed, the planner's communicator buzzed with pressing notes. "Sir, the media assembles in the session space. They seek all 4 figures now." The Rock gazed to Chuck and Seagal, fresh esteem clear in his look. "At minimum, allow us to note what transpired there. Allow us to credit properly." Chuck pondered this briefly, then assented once. "Truth always counts," Seagal concurred. As the 4 proceeded toward the media session, the Rock aligned beside Chuck. "One final query," he uttered. Tone lowered for seclusion. "Despite the active hall, you could have shamed us there, made it more striking, more conclusive. Why avoid?" Chuck's reply arrived sans pause, as straight and thrifty as all about him. Real might doesn't require ruin, only instruct. The plainness of the reply halted the Rock mid-step. He gazed at Chuck long, then assented gradually, a learner getting a ultimate deep teaching. "I'll recall that," he uttered eventually. Chuck met his gaze straight. "That's the aim." The media session that ensued became iconic in amusement fields, not for dispute or show, but for its uncommon truth. The Rock and Cena talked with unusual modesty about their encounter, openly noting the teaching they got, both bodily and theoretically. "Today I absorbed the gap between being mighty and being an expert," The Rock informed the gathered journalists. His signature appeal directed into true thought. "These sirs," he motioned to Chuck and Seagal, who positioned softly at the same surface, "displayed that real might isn't about ruling the focus. It's about grasping precisely when and how to apply your might." Cena assented strongly. "As sportsmen and entertainers, we're prepared to display assurance, to claim every space we enter. Today we face something distinct, might that doesn't require declaration, that communicates via accuracy over loudness. When journalists aimed queries at Chuck and Seagal, their replies stayed typically brief, diverting notice over seeking it. They commended the cause occasion's goal, noted the sports skills of the younger figures, and steadily redirected attention to the aim over the figures. "Will there be another?" one journalist queried eagerly, noting the spread potential. The Rock chuckled, true fun replacing his prior hurt ego. "I believe we've absorbed our teaching. Thanks greatly. Some teachings," Cena supplemented, massaging his arm with a wry grin, "only require one delivery." As the media session wrapped and the four rose to depart, lenses captured one ultimate instant that would spread millions in days ahead. The Rock shifted to Chuck, and with honest esteem posed a query just audible for close mics to note. "Any guidance for us still sorting it?" Chuck's reply provided with the soft surety of an individual who had spent years mastering not just fighting disciplines but self. Held just 6 terms. "Allow your deeds surpass your terms." The insight echoed over online platforms, created endless images, and sparked talks about era values and true might. But past the spread instance and trending tags, something more meaningful had happened in that Las Vegas venue. A true shift of insight. A link between eras. A teaching about the essence of real expertise. In the days after, The Rock and Cena's public characters displayed faint but clear changes. Their online shares became less about show and more about content. Their cause efforts got greater focus than personal wins. When questioned about the occasion, both talked with fresh modesty about their continuing path as learners over experts. Chuck and Seagal, meanwhile, resumed their existences with the same soft grace they'd entered the venue. They released no notes, pursued no extra publicity, tried no capitalization on their spread instant. They lacked need. Their deeds had already conveyed much. Coming soon, we have 2 additional amazing tales ready. Just select the picture you wish to view and it will guide you. If you like this clip, ensure to join. It would matter greatly